Natalie, would you share the question again?
I'm trying to figure out how to tell a story about career. And so I was talking, do you know Laura Best from the
I
Fashion
do.
Collective?
Yeah.
So I was chatting with her on Friday, and she referenced Elizabeth Gilbert's, I don't know if it was a talk or whatever, that she gave about the difference between a hobby, a job, a career, and a vocation. And so a hobby is something that you do, like I like to, golf, or I like to ski or whatever. And then a job is something that you do to pay the bills. A career is something that you invest a lot of time and effort into, sort of climbing the ladder and getting higher and more responsibility and managing more people. And then a vocation is like a calling.
Mm-hmm.
So something that you do no matter what, and it can turn into something that, you make a lot of money, or it might not. But the reason that you're doing it is because you're called to do it, and you feel like you're serving humanity, or you're making the world a better place, or whatever. And you do it despite, it's more than a hobby, but it may or may not make you money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, I went down the career track, and I never considered not going down the career track, and managed to get myself to New York and worked in advertising agencies in New York. And then decided to go back to school and get an MBA so that I would be taken more seriously, and, get on sort of the client side and be able to have a seat at the table and make strategic decisions. And all that's well and good, but what happened throughout that process is I really started working on myself with a lot of sort of my history with trauma as a child and developmental trauma. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I guess, I was invited to do a TEDx talk. So I got on a stage in front of 500 people in the entire internet and talked about my deepest, darkest secrets.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's been viewed over 500,000 times, and the response is very positive. But I am now faced with, sort of my persona of my career, which was like advertising lady, MBA, hardcore, da 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 da. And then this very public expose of a very different type of person. And candidly, I don't really have a desire to go back to MBA robot lady. I want to work more in what I see as more of a vocation or a calling, to serve people who have had similar experiences with childhood sexual abuse and mental illness and developmental trauma. But I still have to pay the bills. And so I had been living in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Long story, ended up coming back to Minnesota to be closer to my family. And I'm, I'm working. I would say that I'm underemployed. And I'm doing digital marketing, and that's been great. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do that with people that I had worked with back in Jackson. But, trying to break into the Minneapolis market as sort of a 40-something woman with an MBA and 20 years of experience, and being like, I just want a job. Like, I want to be more than an administrative assistant because I have skills, but I don't want to be, I don't necessarily want $150,000, $200,000 a year job that I've got to like claw my way back into that. I'm not interested in that. I'd like to do something where I can use my skills and apply them and be, productive and contributing, and also be sort of respected and valued for the training that I do have and the experience that I do have. But I don't want to go back into an environment where I have to check every single box, and people are saying, well, you don't have healthcare experience, or you don't have this, or you haven't managed a team of 50 people or whatever. Like, I have something to offer. I want to work. I want to, continue to work. I need to. while I'm also pursuing my vocation of mental health advocacy and speaking out on issues related to sexual violence and complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and, you know, telling my story and helping people, you know, heal.
First, like, I just want to say that's really just amazing to hear. And it's admirable that you're listening to that. Because I think not enough people are taking those necessary steps to be guided in, you know, a larger, kind of larger than life, right, purpose. The stance that I take is that for the right person, your story will resonate. My gut is saying that when you have an initial phone interview, that's not with the right person. That's with, you know, the gatekeeper. And when they then pass over your information, that story is not going with them. Okay. And so it's all about getting your story and your time with the right person who is the decision maker. Because I know this too many times that in many companies that message gets lost in translation. And that person, they might intend well. I mean, I've had to take messages like that to try to share that with a client, and I can't do as good of a job. So so I guess the holy grail is figuring out who that person is and getting on their radar. And sometimes you can easily figure that out through LinkedIn. Sometimes you can ask your network if you have someone already in that company of like who you absolutely need to get in front of. Because once you get in front of them and you're able to share in like a vulnerable way, the right person is going to say, yes, I get it. Right. And so it's like, okay, how do you do that? And so that's where it's like, it comes back to tapping into the hidden job market, the positions that are never advertised. And how you do that is you reach out to people who know you and who will lobby on your behalf, who will talk, you know, on your behalf and say, but make it easy for them. And to say like very, very specifically and succinctly, here's what I'm looking for. The more clear you can be about what you want, the easier it is for that person is to help you. Sometimes we think we're being clear, and the person on the other side is like, I want to help you, but I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, it's been a process for me too. Like I just had this conversation with Laura on Friday, and she's like, hobby, job, vocation, you know, career, vocation. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because I don't want a job where I'm, you know, I mean, I have reported at the C level. I've worked a lot at the C level. I've worked with boards. I'm comfortable in all of that. And I could still do it. I just am not in a position where I want to jump through all of the hoops that I need to get back to that, because I have something that I feel is much more important, you know, which is this whole other thing that I'm already doing.
So if you
Not
pretend like
making any money.
if you pretend like you're the product, do everything you know if you were marketing something else, right? Like take all your marketing skills and you're now the product. How would you position yourself? And come up with your story. And your story might be different depending on who your audience is. But maybe you have a master story and then you have like little tidbits, right?
Sure. Yep. The key messaging document that you pull from.
I mean, what I love now too is like I can send videos to people like easier than I ever have before. If you've ever heard of BombBomb, they give you a free 14-day trial. So it's like in the email, you can put a 30-second video to make it even like come to life for people.
Sure. Yep.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but I've enjoyed when I get emails from people that just like a quick video. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's memorable.
Sure.
So like,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What can you do that makes you stand out?
Yeah.
Keely, do you think that you're being passed over for positions that maybe you are very interested in but overqualified for?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I think, I got home in May of 2019 and naively thought like, oh, I've got all this great experience. I'm going to, and my network was okay. It wasn't great because, the majority of my career, I haven't lived in Minnesota. Compare it to Jackson Hole, Minneapolis is like, there's tons and tons of jobs. So I just was naive and thought like, oh, okay, I'm going to, be able to find something. And then, it got on like 6 months and then it was the holidays and I actually am a ski instructor and I go back for the Christmas rush normally and teach. So I got ready to go back to Jackson and I came home in January with a big project from Jackson that then turned into a larger project. And then Corona hit. So I haven't really been looking for anything lately because frankly, I got so frustrated and so discouraged last winter that I just kind of stopped. And I think the message has been evolving, but yeah, for sure. I'm applying to things that I do check all the boxes and, they're like asking for 5 years of experience, not 20. And I don't, I'm over the like, even when I'm networking and getting the resume in front of the recruiter, the message comes back, you're overqualified. So it's like the recruiter isn't even interested in talking to me because they say, it's like you need 5 years of experience. You've got basically 20. You have no healthcare background because that's where I'm trying to get into is healthcare. And I don't have any healthcare background. So.
Yeah, because that's something that comes to mind when you said, you need a job to pay the bills, but you're not necessarily looking to climb the ladder. Hiring managers, I think, make a quick assumption that everyone's looking to climb the ladder. And that's not necessarily the case. And again, I would say that goes back to Laura's point of being able to talk through your story with the hiring manager. Have you considered doing contract positions? And are you connected with some of the good firms in town for contract and healthcare? And it comes to mind because I think that's such a great way to open doors. In healthcare specifically and gain some experience and kind of get that ball rolling.
I had, when I came home, in 2019 during the summer, I connected with Antenna, I connected with Creatus, Celerity, I forget who else. And then most recently I met Jamie Simpson at Marcom.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yep.
So they put me in front of a group last week and, I don't know, we'll see. I would like to do something in the healthcare arena. This particular role was not in healthcare, but it's also like a 3-month position. And I think I would be interested in something that was a little bit longer.
Sure.
But the thing is those things get extended.
They do. So
very often,
more often than not.
And the thing about being in front of these firms is, Keely, you have to continuously stay in front of them. Don't expect them to reach out to you because they have hundreds of thousands of people that are doing the same. Again, it's like, how are you memorable? You have to continuously and those are the people that stick out to me. They're almost unapologetic about it. And I love their boldness about being like, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. I mean, like the undertone of it is like, hey, I know you're busy. Like, I want you to let you know, like, here's what I've been doing the last couple weeks. Like, make it fun, make it fresh, make it again, like you're the product, right?
Yeah.
How do you want someone to feel when they're interacting with you?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, cool. Like they even if I don't have anything for them, I applaud their effort to continuously, like, the people who are the most consistent and succeeding.
Right.
Consistency wins every time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. And I think, I went through the phase of like coming home and being like, oh, I'm gonna, it's gonna be a slam dunk, because again, the market that I was in was like, it's a town of 10,000 people. It's a tiny little weird, very weird place. It's got the highest income equality gap in the nation by a gigantic, I mean, so there's billionaires on every corner. And I'm not kidding. Like, it's just a very weird place. And so coming to a big market like Minnesota, I was just like, oh yeah, it's going to be easy. And I think I took that very hard, and I took it, very personally, which you can't.
You can't.
That's
That's
no,
the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And I think
but
the faster that you can make the shift of like, it's not about me, it's about what I can do for other people.
yeah,
That's why all job seekers, I'm like, if you can get out of that mindset of like poor me, victim me, and be like, nope, I'm showing up today for other people. I'm going to help
yeah,
other people, right? The more you help others, in turn, that will just change everything about your job search.
right. Yep. I hear you. Yeah, it just took me a while to get over it, and like I said, and so then I came home from Jackson with a big project that has been keeping me pretty busy. But it is, I'm underemployed. I'm not at the level of financial remuneration where I want to be. And also, I'm not building anything within my field of interest, which is, mental health advocacy, healthcare, wellness, well-being, da, 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 da. I'm still working in travel and tourism, which is what I've been working in for the past 6-7 years. So I think I'm over it. But then Corona hit. And so now I'm like coming out, it's November. We're still in Corona land. I think I'm not taking it personally. I'm ready. And so this is very helpful to just say, like, that I just have to be like, hey, what are you doing now? Oh, hey, oh, hi, hey, what are you doing now? This is what I'm doing.
Can I share something with
Please
you?
do, Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
So I live in New Jersey, and I am surrounded by pharmaceutical, and I have the same challenge that you do because I don't have any healthcare background, and I finally gave up knocking on that door, quite honestly. But an interesting thing happened to me last week. I was referred by a friend to a not-for-profit, and um, kind of like you, I think at this point in my career, I would be okay with a job because I have my passions that, which is I'm an artist, right? And that whole thing has refired in me. And I am like after this call, I'm going to my studio. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of the afternoon. So I'm thinking like, can I find something that will like get me, pay the bills and whatever, and give me this time to be me or you to do what you want to do. And so I hooked up with a not-for-profit, and I'm kind of excited about this. The first thing she said to me was, we can't afford you, but let me tell you what the job is. And she told me about the work, and she has multiple challenges. She has somebody retiring. She has other people that are not well suited for their roles. And she's like, you've done everything. You've done everything. I can use you in a million different ways. And so I said, okay, well, let's make a list of everything that you need, and then let's talk. Because maybe for her, I can do everything she needs part-time.
Yeah.
And she pays me what would be their full-time salary for me to do part-time work. So I'm trying to be really flexible in that respect. But what was so exciting for me was she was so excited about everything that I would be able to do for her because of my background. And I bet you would check that same box. And you're a hard commodity to come by for these kinds of teams. Big organizations, I totally get where you're coming from. They've got this list and you got to check all these boxes. You got to have 5 years of this and this system and that system and this.
Yeah.
Like, ugh, right? I don't even want to go there. I want to be able to bring what I've learned over the course of my career
Mhm.
and help somebody, like Laura was saying, just help, right? I even said to her, look, even if this doesn't work out, I'm willing to help you. Just
Yeah.
find what you need and try and figure it out, and we'll go from there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Um, and I haven't really looked at, I mean, I have looked at some nonprofit, specifically related to mental health stuff. But it's good to think about that whole area and just really kind of shaking the trees on that.
Yeah, because I mean, not for profit doesn't mean that they don't make money.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I just felt like I would be so appreciated, which is something for me that's really important right now
Yeah.
in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I think that's what has happened to me is my last few like full-time things, it was just like, wow, you know, and I think I was able to not take that personally. But like the man that I was working for in Jackson is like friends with Donald Trump. And so you can just make all kinds of assumptions about the work culture there. And I'm a little gun shy to get back into a full-time gig, but I think a nonprofit's a good bet.
Check it out.
Yep.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the more people that really know you, who are aware that like you've got different types of criteria, that's really going to fill your soul, right? For
Mhm.
a new opportunity, and that
Yeah.
you're not gonna, it might not look like the old Keely, right? And like describe the new Keely. So
Yep.
they just make it come to life for people because
Right.
um again, it's just like one connection can change your life. Just one. All you need is one. Someone else who gets it.
Yep.
And I mean, like, just being in the connection business this whole entire, 15, 16 years, it's like, I know that that's the truth. And all you
Yeah.
need is someone who just gets it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Well,
feel like
and
we're all kind of radiating that same sort of energy right now too, that it's not, it's, you have one life, right?
yeah.
Better be putting out the kind of energy and serving the kind of people that you want to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly it. It's like, part of the reason I went back to school was I was working on Outback Steakhouse and I ran their global advertising. And I started to feel gross about it because the like contributing to diabetes and obesity and the impact on the environment. I mean, cattle ranching as one of the biggest contributors to global climate change. And, so yes, and in advertising, you don't have a lot of control over what you're working on. If you're at an agency and they're like, okay, we need you to do this, it's like, you're going to do that. So yeah, who you're serving and what your efforts are actually contributing for me has become a very important part of how I want to spend the rest of my career.
So I expect to get an email or some sort of fun communication from you in the next.
Okay, that's my assignment.
Maybe less. As long as you know that I really mean it genuinely. Like, we're here to help. Use us.
Okay. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and I think it just has taken me a year to like get back on the bandwagon. I mean, I was just so discouraged and I just had to kind of go back and lick my wounds and get my act together and but yeah, I do appreciate that, and I will, and I'll be like the meerkat, like, hey, hi,
And put me on that list too, Healy. I want to see.
Okay.
The other thing that comes to mind is around the culture piece, that you kind of touched on, and being gun shy and culture. I think unless whenever possible, again, it's, who do you know within that organization, or who can you even just reach out to and introduce yourself that works there, even if you don't know them, and say, hey, you've worked there for a couple of years. What's the culture like?
Right.
Otherwise I think it's really hard to vet culture until you're actually in there,
Yeah.
working, unless you can make those connections. But that's one way to do it. And there's no harm in that. I've seen the most successful job searchers be like no fear in reaching out and saying, hey, I found, these 3 people that work there, and I reached out and sent them a note, and I'm talking to them because I want to know what it's like to work there. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
Right. Yes. That's a good point.
Doing that research. And you don't, I think there's, and especially for someone that is newer to the market, and like you said, don't have as big of a network here as you do in other places. I think there's maybe a belief that, hey, I have to know all these people to ask for all these connections. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you can be applying for jobs and kind of doing your discovery work at the same time by reaching out to people that work in those companies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And I think that shift energetically is really important for me, as opposed to like, going back to the meerkat, like, hey, please hire me. If you're like going in and being like, I've got skills.
Right.
With a Z, SKILLZ.
Yeah.
I've got skills.
That's right. I'm going to tell you about them all.
Yeah. And that, like I'm looking for my next, where I'm going to be for a while, and I'm, it's important.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good.
That really energetic. That really can help you have that mind shift, and, help you kind of present maybe even a little bit more confidently or differently when you're in front of people. I know it does for me when I think about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, I've just hogged all the time. Valerie, what do you want to talk about?
I actually have I hope it's a quick question.
Yeah, because I do actually have to leave right on time. And I unfortunately have the meeting control.
It goes to that thing about you interviewing them. Has anyone here either been asked or have asked people to do a one-way video interview?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
They are terrible.
But I think it's one of those necessary evils to kind of get through that step in the process for some of these. I've seen it with larger organizations more often.
Yes.
I had a request from a very small organization whose value prop is around employee engagement. And I felt it was kind of a non-fit. And so I actually declined the interview. I said, no, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think you can look at it a couple different ways. I think that's certainly a very fair way to look at it. And then, especially if it's in the beginning of the process, which is typically what I've seen, it's almost like that initial screening call with HR or whoever, on, okay, are you going to pass through to the rest of the process? So if you can kind of look at it like that, depending on what they're asking of you, sometimes they are worth the time to do it.
I passed.
Yeah, no, more power to you.
You do you.
I love that.
You do you.
Yes. Like you said, it wasn't a good representation of what they were portraying about their company. Yeah. It doesn't feel right. It probably wasn't right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, ladies, more power to you. Let's go on and conquer the rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for all of your good insights. I really appreciate it, allowing me to kind of take up all the time. So thank you.
Absolutely. You know what?
Great.
I bet it's going to happen. Michaela and I are going to get someone who's in a very similar situation, and we're going to be like, this is how someone else, we work through it with them, right? Mm-hmm. It's all that pay it forward. We're going to pay it forward as much as we can.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad I could be the guinea pig.
All right.
We
Bye,
Appreciate
ladies.
it.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.